What's going down, everybody? It's your boy, That Guy Mile High, tuning back in for another one of them reactions. This time we got Audit the Audit. This one is cop is fired and arrested after this lawsuit. What he did to cause, he or she, I don't know. It just says cop, so it could be him or her, whatever. I don't know. But this cop, I don't know what it did. So, Epic Service, Jamal Keith, Christy Poe, Funny Farm, Manly, Misty Summers, Sniper, Trey 420, Driver Thoughts, Ryan Parks, Kara, Marie, Carrie, Mr. Pay It Forward, Happy Chicks, Happy Chick, Lynn Willow, Hologirl Taylor, Hollaboy, Marla, Diesel, Nick, Creatively Insane, Nicole, Aaron, Mama Dukes, Robin Lynn, Amy Jane Doe, Liz, Nugget, My Hood Life, and Gary Willis. Whole lot of gang-ish, you dig what I'm saying? If you want to get a personal shout out, just like all these people that I just shouted out, think about hitting that join button down below. We do it in all the videos, the lives, all that good jazz. You know what I'm saying? 3 different options to choose from. And if none of those options fit your lifestyle, your fancy, your needs, go ahead and just do it the free 99 way, baby. You know what I'm saying? Free 99 is easy for everybody to do because it's free. Like, whatever somebody's giving for free, why not? You know what I mean? Subscribe and hit that bell notification, please and thank you. Anyways, let's jump into this video, hit the full screen, and let's go. Let's see what happened, bro. Let's see what happened. Let's see what the situation is. Shout out to Audit the Audit, too.
Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and
things.
what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers domestic violence, warrantless entries, and excessive force, and is brought to us by the K-Views channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. On the evening of September 21st, 2019, officers responded to a domestic violence call in Austin, Texas. Deputy Pereira with the Williamson County Sheriff's Office arrived on the scene and knocked on the door of an apartment where 20-year-old Skylar Leal lived with her boyfriend Eric Ramirez to investigate the call, which was made by one of their neighbors.
Hey, let me talk to you real quick.
Yeah.
Do you need EMS?
No, I'm fine.
Come out here. Come out here.
I really don't want to deal with y'all people.
All right, well, we'll make sure you're okay.
I'm fine.
163610, you were code 4. She does not need EMS. So, what happened?
Nothing.
Look up for me. What's on your neck? What happened?
Nothing happened.
So, I have witnesses saying something happened. So, are you trying to protect him?
No, I just really don't like dealing with y'all. I really don't want to deal with y'all. I really don't.
Okay.
So, go away, cop.
So,
I don't need to talk to y'all. I really don't.
do you have your ID on you or anything?
No, I don't.
So, what's your last name?
Not giving it to you. She's like, I don't want to do
Where is the guy that allegedly, I mean,
I don't know where he's at. I don't.
So he left?
He left.
Does he live in this apartment complex?
No, he does not.
You don't know which way he went?
I don't know, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
1636K94, victim's advising she does not know which way he went. So,
Really?
were y'all, I'm trying to figure out why your friends called the cops.
What friend?
Or your witnesses, whoever was over here that called us.
Okay.
So what?
It was a
We got into
neighbor.
an argument.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Literally.
It was nothing physical?
Nothing physical.
Where are the marks on your neck from?
We got into my necklace right here.
No, this right here. What is that from?
Does it really matter?
Yes.
It doesn't.
You want to make sure you're okay.
I'm fine, ma'am.
So?
I'm fine. Like, literally, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I get a rash talking to y'all. I do not want to talk to you, and especially Williamson County. Y'all have a really bad reputation. I've bad encounters with y'all. I do not want to
I'm not gonna hurt you.
I know you aren't, ma'am.
Okay,
I really
so
do
we're
not.
just
She
we need
said,
your
I
cooperation.
don't want to. She's like, why
Do you want to
not
press
respecting
charges?
her?
I do not. And
Okay.
I do not.
Is there anyone else in the
My
apartment
sister
with you?
is here.
Okay, can I talk to her?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait,
You wanna
no,
go get-
no, I really don't want you to talk.
Okay, well,
It's none of her
if she
business.
wants to talk to me, then I can talk to her.
She does not want to talk.
How
to
do
me.
I know that?
Because I told her that she had nothing to do with this.
Okay, well, let me try to make contact with her. Do you want to go back inside for the time
No.
being?
Oh my
I really
gosh.
don't.
bro.
Okay, well then step over here
No.
for me. So what's the deal?
What is your problem?
I'm
First
trying to
of all?
figure out what's going
I'm
on
trying
here.
to tell you, ma'am, she had nothing to do with this. I called her after because
Who
I
called
want
the
my...
cops?
I didn't call the cops.
I'm asking who called the cops, guys.
Those people, I don't know.
You don't know them?
I don't know them. Never met those people in my life.
Okay.
Ms. Leal informs Deputy Pereira that Mr. Ramirez has left the apartment, that she does not know where he is, and that she does not wish to press charges for domestic assault. Domestic violence laws vary widely among states, with state laws differing on issues such as how domestic abuse is defined, the types of crimes domestic abusers can be charged with, mandatory reporting requirements, and whether police officers are obligated to make an arrest. While some states have adopted policies that require police to make an arrest when responding to domestic violence calls or file a report explaining why an arrest is not made, in Texas, it is left to a police officer's discretion whether to make an arrest. Article 14.03 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure states that officers may arrest without a warrant, quote, persons who the peace officer has probable cause to believe have committed an offense involving family violence. Although Ms. Leal stated that she did not want to press charges against Mr. Ramirez, contrary to popular belief, it is not up to a victim to decide whether to pursue criminal charges. When officers investigate the scene of a possible crime, they are authorized to arrest a suspect if they conclude there is probable cause to do so. Likewise, prosecutors can file criminal charges against a victim's wishes if they have sufficient evidence to prove that the offense occurred without the victim's cooperation. Article 5.01 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure notes that, quote, family violence is a serious danger and threat to society and its members. Victims of family violence are entitled to the maximum protection from harm or abuse, or the threat of harm or abuse as is permitted by law. In any law enforcement response to allegations of family violence, the responding law enforcement shall protect the victim, without regard to the relationship between the alleged offender and victim. Similarly, Article 5.04 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure states that, quote, the primary duties of a peace officer who investigates a family violence allegation or who responds to a disturbance call that may involve family violence are to protect any potential victim of family violence, enforce the law of this state, enforce a protective order from another jurisdiction, and make lawful arrests of violators. Even though Ms. Leal did not want to cooperate with the investigation, it is important to bear in mind that the responding police officers had a duty under Texas law to protect her.
So, I got her name and date of birth. She doesn't want to be cooperative. I see some marks on her neck that might be fresh. She's saying she's denying medical attention. She said she didn't want to talk to us. Sister doesn't want to talk. They live in here. So
what are y'all gonna do? Kick the door open or something?
she's like, I don't even want y'all in my house. I'm like, well, we gotta find the guy that allegedly did this. So she didn't give direction, travel, description, anything. She's like, he left. I don't know where he went.
Third level Dickerson.
Satisfaction.
So we need to see if this guy's inside your apartment.
Who else is in here?
My sister, no, I really don't.
Deputy Lorenzo Hernandez, who was once featured on the reality show Live PD, arrives on the scene and tries to force his way into the apartment. Ms. Leal protests his attempt to enter while standing in front of the door, and Deputy Hernandez grabs her by the throat and throws her to the ground. We will discuss the legality of Deputy Hernandez's use of force in a moment, but it should first be noted that a court would likely conclude that the officers did have the authority to enter Ms. Leal's apartment. The Fourth Amendment generally requires officers to have a warrant to enter a citizen's home without their permission. However, there are some exceptions to the warrant requirement, which include authorization to enter to protect individuals, such as domestic violence victims, from immediate harm. In the 2006 case of Georgia versus Randolph, the Supreme Court explained that, quote, no question has been raised, or reasonably could be, about the authority of the police to enter a dwelling to protect a resident.
That's what I guess I feel like they feel. They try to make it clear enough to where you can kind of get it, and then it's like vague enough that you don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like they just kind of keep us in a state of confusion. Because how do you even what do you mean that they can't enter my house without a warrant or without permission, but then it's okay that to kick my shit in or try to force your way in and all this other nonsense, and then you put your hands on me in the very bruh. This is
domestic
crazy.
Violence, so long as they have good reason to believe such a threat exists. Thus, the question of whether the police might lawfully enter over objection in order to provide any protection that might be reasonable is easily answered yes. Although this case discussed situations where the perpetrator, rather than the victim, protested the officer's entry, courts often give officers wide latitude to enter dwellings when responding to domestic violence calls. For instance, in the 1989 case of State versus Green, the Supreme Court of Arizona held that because domestic violence calls commonly involve dangerous situations in which the possibility for physical harm or damage escalates rapidly, quote, the call itself creates a sufficient indication that an exigency exists, allowing the officer to enter a dwelling if no circumstance indicates that entry is unnecessary. Likewise, in the 1994 case of People versus Higgins, the 4th District Court of Appeal of California determined that a warrantless entry was justified where officers responding to a domestic violence call were met by a woman who had a red mark under her eye. Even though she claimed she was alone and that the injury was from falling down some stairs, the court found that the officers reasonably believed she was lying and at risk of continued violence. Given this precedent, it is probable that a court would conclude that Deputy Hernandez had the authority to enter Ms. Leal's apartment without a warrant or her consent to ensure her safety.
But he did have...
Y'all weren't even supposed to go into my apartment. Y'all with what? I'm literally gonna press charges on y'all.
We have a possible felony.
Possible felony?
Yes.
For what? For who? He's not here, I'm telling you.
But you don't know where he went?
I don't know where he went. Lee.
Okay.
Like what?
Wow. This is wild,
You
bro.
can understand where you're in handcuffs right now?
No, I
So
don't.
what happened? We were trying to talk, right? That's all we were trying to do?
Okay, so I'm gonna take
Is there
these
a light in
handcuffs
here?
off you.
How do you turn the light
Are we
on?
gonna be cool if we take these handcuffs off?
The light's not on, it's not on.
All right, man, so I wasn't here with information to relate to you. When we come to stuff like this, we're going to check for safety reasons, okay? We're gonna make sure he's not here and you're not hiding him. We understand you don't wanna cooperate, we can't force you to do that, we get that, we understand that, but you don't do what you just did. Not when we show up.
And
for
you
something
don't
like this.
fucking
We
put
don't
your
get
hands on her
cooperation,
either,
that is
bro.
what happens.
Yes.
That was the stupidest
Deputy
shit.
Hernandez tells Ms. Leal that the altercation was a result of her non-compliance and
Fuck outta
implies
here.
that the deputies were within
You're
their
a bitch for
authority to
that.
use force against her.
No.
However, a court would
Not in
almost
that way.
certainly disagree with Deputy Hernandez's interpretation of the situation. When determining
Facts.
whether the officer's use of force is constitutional, courts must decide whether the level of force employed was reasonable under the totality of the
And it most
circumstances. To
definitely
reach this
wasn't.
conclusion, courts consider the 3 factors outlined in the 1989 Supreme Court case of Graham versus Connor, which are, now quoting, the severity of the crime at issue, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others, and whether he is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. In the 2018 case of Darden versus City of Fort Worth, the Fifth Circuit expanded on this analysis, stating that, quote, we have previously suggested that a constitutional violation occurs when an officer tases, strikes, or violently slams an arrestee who is not actively resisting arrest. And that, now quoting again, our case law makes clear that when an arrestee is not actively resisting arrest, the degree of force an officer can employ is reduced.
Yeah,
Although
if she
Deputy
wasn't under
Hernandez was
arrest,
at Ms.
bro.
Leal's apartment to investigate a report of domestic
She wasn't
violence,
under
which is
arrest.
a serious offense, it is crucial to keep in mind that Ms. Leal was the victim and not the perpetrator of that
Yep.
offense. Ms. Leal was also not resisting arrest, as she was not under arrest or even being detained, and she was not posing any sort of physical threat to the officers. While
At
she did
all.
protest to the officers entering her apartment, there are many non-violent methods Deputy Hernandez could have employed to attempt to gain entry, instead of immediately resorting to force. And even if some degree of force became necessary for the officers to enter, there is no possible justification for grabbing Ms. Leal by the neck and throwing her to the ground.
At
Under
all.
these
Not
circumstances,
even a
it is
little bit.
clear that a court would find the force used by Deputy Hernandez to be excessive.
All this screaming
Super excessive.
does not make us stop, okay? It only makes us get you secure faster, okay? It's my understanding you do not want to cooperate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we know who he is, we're gonna find him eventually. He comes back over here for whatever reason, you're having to call because he's continuing to do what he's gonna do, we're going to take him to jail. Understand those circumstances that y'all put yourselves in, and y'all make us have to deal with those issues. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you suck at your job, bro.
Then Sheriff Robert Shodey ordered an internal investigation into the altercation, and Deputy Hernandez was suspended for 1 day as a result. He was promoted to detective 2 months later. But in
What?
January 2021, Deputy Hernandez resigned when former Sheriff Shodey left office after being defeated by current Sheriff Mike Gleason. On May 17,
Good.
2021, former Deputy Hernandez was charged with official oppression and assault for the force he used against Ms. Leal. And on
Good.
September 20th,
Fucking
2021,
asshole.
Ms. Leal filed a federal lawsuit against Mr. Hernandez and the Williamson County Sheriff's Office. As of the date of this episode, both the criminal charges against Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Leal's civil
Still
suit
pending.
are still pending.
Yep.
Overall, former Deputy Hernandez gets an F. for
Facts.
escalating
That's why
a
you failed.
relatively
That's why you went
peaceful
to prison.
encounter into a physical altercation, maintaining an unprofessional and dispassionate attitude, and for needlessly using an unnecessarily high degree of force against Ms. Leal. It was less than 10 seconds between the time that Mr. Hernandez first made contact with Ms. Leal and when he forced her to the ground with a choke. As mentioned earlier, the Williamson County deputies were...
The fact that it's so bad that they didn't even release the footage, like they're just like, yeah, this shit, we dealt with them. Like, they cut that whole
likely
part
within
out.
their
Like,
authority to enter Ms. Leal's apartment to investigate the domestic disturbance. However, it's difficult to
his job.
rationalize their method of doing so if they truly suspected that Ms. Leal was a victim of abuse. In October of 2019, the International Association of Chiefs of Police developed a model policy for domestic violence calls. This policy states that officers should take photographs of all injuries of all parties involved in the call. However, none of the deputies did this, despite Deputy Pereira's claim that Ms. Leal had sustained an injury on her neck. This is an important
which is
discrepancy
crazy
in
that
the way
she
that the
didn't do
deputies
that.
handled this investigation, because unless the uncensored body camera footage clearly showed Ms. Leal's alleged injury, there is no way to distinguish the injuries that she sustained from abuse and those sustained from being choked and physically subdued by the officers. This may
Right.
offer the suspect a legitimate defense if he's ever charged with domestic violence as a result of this interaction. As the deputies were
Wow.
releasing Ms. Leal,
Jackass.
Mr. Hernandez made
They fucked
several
up that whole
inflammatory
investigation.
statements that undermined her victim status and essentially blamed Ms. Leal for continuing a pattern of abuse. Mr. Hernandez told Ms. Leal, quote, "Understand that these circumstances y'all put yourselves
put
in, and
yourselves
y'all
in,
make us have to
jackass."
deal with these issues. And, quote, we have a job to do. Whether you understand that in the moment, I don't care." Nothing that Mr. Hernandez did was conducive to establishing an environment of trust with Ms.
Yeah, he
Leal,
was
and it is
not doing his
clear
job
that
at all.
Mr. Hernandez
He sucked at his
failed to
job.
consider the psychological implications of being a victim of long-term abuse. This interaction highlights the importance of thorough domestic violence training and well-established domestic violence policy within police departments nationwide. As for Ms. Leal, it's difficult to assign a grade to an individual who is clearly suffering from emotional trauma outside the context of this interaction. Considering the information provided to the officers by the 911 caller, it's safe to assume that Ms. Leal had been dealing with a mentally and likely physically taxing situation, and she was under a lot of emotional stress when she initially made contact with Deputy Pereira. The IACP specifically mentions that victims of abuse may respond to officers with denial and anger for a litany of reasons, and acknowledges that, quote, "Officers need to understand that victims of domestic violence can display a wide variety of reactions to the violence. No
That's
two
very
victims
true.
may express themselves in the same way. There is no denying that domestic violence calls are often extremely complex and difficult to resolve peacefully.
For sure.
However, the difficulty of a lawful duty should never be a deterrent for carrying out that duty with professionalism, understanding, and diligence. I commend Ms. Leal for having the courage to follow up this encounter with the proper legal action. Let us know if there is an
Yeah,
interaction
definitely.
or legal
'Cause
topic
that
you
shit
would
is
like us
wild.
to discuss in
They-
the comments
they
below.
definitely-
Thank you for watching.
Definitely needed to fire his ass immediately. I'm glad that that he eventually did get fired, even though he got a promotion before it happened. And I'm glad he guys ended up in jail. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that shit is not okay, and you're not above the law, bruh. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, very interesting interaction. Hopefully it all works out for her in the end, and yeah, she gets to move on and be in a better situation. So, yeah, hopefully the cop learned his fucking lesson, and hopefully other cops that got to, witness or see that situation unfold, learn something from it. So, yeah. That's all there is to it. Anyways, I love y'all. Let me know what you thought about that in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.